Johnny Murr here, and welcome back to a brand new review. Today, we're going to be reviewing Donkey Kong Bonanza. This just dropped. This is the brand new Nintendo Switch 2 game, and dare I say, it should have been the launch game, but we'll get into that in a second. But ladies and gentlemen, I have played Donkey Kong Bonanza. I have rolled credits about 20 hours in. It's a really short game, and so we're going to talk about that. But anyway, thank you all so much for clicking on this video. If you guys love video games, this is the place to be. We talk about it daily. There's so much to be excited about, so much to talk about, and that's what I'm here to do. Doesn't matter what you love. Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, third-party, PC, VR, indie, whatever it may be. Consider subscribing, share with your friends. I appreciate all the support you guys give me, especially the support on this video right here. But without further ado, man, I'm not even going to waste your time. I'm going to jump right into my Donkey Kong Bonanza review. Now, look, I am a big Nintendo fan. As you see, Metroid. Metroid is like my second favorite franchise, period, in gaming. Got the Nintendo Switch 2. Been playing the heck out of Mario Kart. I love a lot of Nintendo things, and I love platformers. Some of my favorite games ever are platformers, including Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Mario Odyssey is one of the only games I have as a 10 out of 10. So I have my fair share of going into these types of games. And look, just rip the band-aid off, give it to you straight. My impression, my thoughts on Donkey Kong Bonanza. Going into the game, I had doubts. I had concerns. And unfortunately, those doubts and concerns lived up. I walked out of the game, unfortunately, bummed out that those doubts and concerns came to fruition. And what I'm about to say will kind of explain it. This is a special game. This is a very special game. It's just not for me, unfortunately. And what I mean by not for me is I really enjoyed this game, but not as much as I wanted to. And so we're gonna get into that, and the more you hear me talk about this, the more you'll kind of understand where I'm at. And so I'm just going to go and tell you right now what my score is, because I know this is kind of a crazy statement. I'm kind of saying a lot of things that's like, okay, you said not for you, but then you said you enjoyed it, and then you said it's special, but all the doubts and concerns came to fruition. Yes, this is an 8.5 out of 10 game for me. This is a really great game. And I'm kind of going to explain my thoughts, give you, try and justify myself, even though I really don't have to. Unfortunately, it's just my opinion, guys. This is not an objective review. Like, I'm not a critic. I'm not going to go on Metacritic. I'm just a player who paid for the game. I played it, and I'm giving you my thoughts on the game. But what I will say is this game is huge. This game is getting critical success, player praise, all over the place, universal. And even me, you're gonna hear me in this review. This is a good review. This is a positive review at the end of the day. This is, if I was going on Metacritic, if I was going on OpenCritic, it would be a positive review. Like I just said, 8.5. That is still a great score. The reason this is kind of going to be weird is because there are people out there, genuinely, and I think this is totally valid. There are people who generally think this game is a 10 out of 10. And there are people who are saying this is one of the best platformers of all time. And the reason this review is so interesting is because I completely agree with them. I absolutely completely agree with them. When I think of story, when I think of visuals, the technology, the music, and the gameplay when it comes to platformers, Donkey Kong Bonanza is truly up there with some of the all-time best. And I really do think that. Even for somebody who, like I just said, it's not really for me, I see it, and when I'm playing it, I recognize it, and I'm impressed by so many things. I'm gonna read to you my little blurb that I usually type out in my, I guess, review round, result pictures. So I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's on the A tier. I think it's a really great game. That is what 8.5 stands for in my review scale. And I say this, Donkey Kong Bonanza is a special game that just isn't for me. While I found the core gameplay loop to be uninteresting, it's hard to not be impressed by the creative quality of this game. Every mechanic is fleshed out from start to finish, and this game is incredibly enjoyable with fun and exciting visuals and music. The last 3 hours is peak Nintendo, and I couldn't help but be impressed even if I wasn't hooked by Bonanza's gameplay. And that truly is the story of my experience with this game. Going into the game when I first saw the trailer, I was kind of a little taken back by the fact that the biggest gameplay mechanic, I guess the quote-unquote gimmick, even though it's not a gimmick, where it is the core of this game's gameplay, is destruction. That is what you are doing 75% of this game. You are punching, you are digging, you are climbing, you are just destroying this map that they've given you, and you go from layer to layer, getting deeper and deeper, more complex. And while I 100% see why that will be fun for a lot of people, and even I will say it is satisfying to a certain degree, I personally found it to be very repetitive, and I just overall wasn't a big fan of the concept of destruction. I wasn't a fan of the concept when I first saw the game. I thought it would kind of be boring, and unfortunately that is kind of how I feel while playing the game. While I'm super impressed, and we're going to talk about that, there are tons of mechanics that they give you with this destruction mechanic. The fact you're able to grab rocks, you can double jump with them, you can surf on them, you can throw them, you can swing them. Then, of course, you can dig down, you can dig up, dig to the side. You can roll. Of course, there's all the platforming things you know and love from a Mario game, which, by the way, this game is very much from the Mario Odyssey team. That is very clear. But it's also, at the same time, very much a Donkey Kong game, and I really love that about it. While those are great things about the gameplay, and while they did take that gimmick and they made something great out of it, for me, the concept seemed uninteresting, and I kind of was uninterested doing it in the game. I never found myself, oh, I get to dig here, yay. Oh, I get to solve this puzzle by digging and jumping on rocks. It kind of just didn't excite me. But luckily, everything else around the game, including combat and platforming, I think were really great, right? If I just told you the gameplay in this game, I just didn't like the gameplay, I would be lying. Because when I'm talking about the platforming, when I'm talking about the combat in this game, I really do enjoy it. I actually found myself, that was the most fun I ever had with this game's gameplay. Anytime I found a battle challenge like thing where you know it's kind of like these side bonus challenges, anytime I saw a battle one or a platforming one, I was there and I was enjoying the heck out of them. I just really wasn't a whole fan of the destroying things, and more importantly, the main objective of this game's gameplay, and that is collecting bananas. I found the collecting bananas totally meaningless in this game. I know that's kind of a strong word, but to me, I just really wasn't like excited to go find bananas. There was nothing in this game that persuaded me, that pushed me to want to go find bananas. At a certain point, about halfway through the game, I literally only collected mainline bananas because I just didn't really care. And that's kind of the truth. I know that's gonna disagree with a lot of people, and I'm 100% gonna say it. I'm in the minority here, and I completely am accepting that, but I'm not going to lie with my opinion just because everyone else thinks otherwise. I personally just found it very uninteresting. That being said, there are tons of great things about this gameplay, including the platforming, including the skill tree and the progression within Donkey Kong as a character. There are tons of great things in here, whether it is, you know, all the customizations you get to do. You know, there is that whole, I don't know what they call it, Donkey Kong artist thing, I think is what they call it, where you take like a rock and you kind of like sculpt and stuff. That's fun. That's really, really cool. There's photo mode in here. It's great. There's a lot of great things. The platforming is honestly just as good, if not better, than Super Mario Odyssey. The controls feel really, really good. You feel fast as Donkey Kong, and you feel powerful. And one thing I really like, which this is one doubt and concern I had before the game came out, that actually proved me wrong, and that was this mechanic in the game called Bananzas. Which, wow, who would have guessed? Where basically you find an elder. In this game, you have the Kong Elder, you have the Ostrich Elder, and you have the Zebra Elder. Those were the ones showcased in the Donkey Kong Direct. There are more of them, but I'm not going to spoil them here. Where you basically turn into a different animal, but a super-powered version of them, and each of them have their own ability. In my eyes, when they showed it in the Direct, I just thought, okay, so it's just more ways to destroy things as just a different animal. And I was kind of like, okay, first of all, I'm not trying to play another animal. I want to play Donkey Kong. Like that's the whole reason. Like why am I turning into a zebra? I feel like I've lost the plot here. That being said, within context of progressing through this game and after experiencing what those mechanics actually offer, that was one of my favorite parts of the game, is finding all these elder Bananzas and getting these transformations, because they truly are all very distinct in my opinion, and they add a lot to the gameplay loop. They are very in-depth, and they add a lot of structure to this game's level design, which is very good to begin with. And one thing I would really like to say about this game in terms of gameplay, which I feel like a lot of platformers or Nintendo games honestly tend to feel like, is, a lot of Nintendo games is, okay, here is this game, and then here's its sequel. And honestly, I'm not even going to point out specifically Nintendo. You could point that out for PlayStation. You could point it out for third-party games, right? There's a lot of times where it feels like, okay, here's the first game of the franchise. We're going to introduce a lot of mechanics, and, it's going to be deep, and it's going to seem really, really cool, and everyone's going to love it. But in the sequels, when we're really going to try and get creative with it and just push it to the highest of capabilities, Donkey Kong Bonanza feels like Donkey Kong Bonanza 1 and 2 in the same game. Whereas the first half of the game, it's introducing to you a lot of these mechanics, and it's getting you very adjusted to what this game is. And then the second half is just like, let's just take those mechanics and run wild with them. And I really love that. I really love that, because by the end of the game, you feel like a pro, but it's still kind of challenging enough to where you are very engaged with the gameplay. Unfortunately, none of that to me has to do with the digging, with the destroying the map, with finding all the bananas. One of the biggest letdowns for me is there was just genuinely no reason outside of skill points to collect bananas. There was no requirement to collect a certain amount of bananas in order to progress to the next layer. Literally, that one detail I think would have made it a lot better for me. It wouldn't have solved all my issues with it, but for me, there was just no reason to find bananas. I get it. Skill points, collectathon, if you're trying to 100%, 100, then I get it. I get it. And that's going to be for a lot of people out there. But for me, this was a game I knew off rip. I wasn't going to try and 100%. And I really love Odyssey. And one of my favorite parts about that is, having to find those moons to move on to the next stage. And it just wasn't here in this game. That being said, like I've stated in a lot of different things, the platforming, the combat, is just really stellar. Like, amazing. Absolutely amazing. But that's not even everything else great about this game. I adored this game's music. The music, I wouldn't say it's one of the best OSTs Nintendo's ever put out. I actually was expecting probably a little bit better, but there are highlights though. I think some of this game's highs when it comes to the music is very, very high, amongst the best. But I think as an overall OST, I think it's just very good. I don't think it's, a top tier OST, but there are moments and there are songs specifically related to Pauline in this game that I think are very, very special. And that's how I feel about the game entirely. There are just things about this game I feel are very, very special, and I really wouldn't be surprised, and I would completely agree if a diehard Nintendo fan came up to me, if a diehard Donkey Kong fan came up to me and was like, this is one of the greatest games of all time, period, full stop. I would be like, I can't disagree with you. I completely understand where you're coming from, because there are things in this game that if it just speaks to you, if it clicks with you, it might bring you to tears. And honestly, there was a part, I said it in my blurb, the last 3 hours of this game is peak Nintendo. There was a moment in that last 3 hours, I dang near almost cried. I almost started tearing up, like, honestly, because they do a great job with developing these characters. Is it going to have a great backstory? Is it going to have these deep personal, tension-pulling scenes and plot points and character arcs? No, but it's just seeing Donkey Kong's personality, Pauline's personality, kind of grow and share over the length of the game, and kind of just lead up into a very it felt earned and it felt right, and it kind of has that that Disney magic to it, right? There's a lot of people who say Disney magic, Nintendo magic, very similar. Disney and Nintendo are very similar companies in a lot of ways. DK Bonanza really does feel like, you know, the next big Pixar movie for Nintendo. It has that magic to it, that the visual styles, the music, everything kind of clicking together. Even though it's not the most sophisticated story, it's just, it feels so wholesome, and you can't help but just feel so happy for these characters, but also yourself. Yeah, I really enjoyed what the story was. I wish there was more to do in the story. Like, I wish, you know, there were some more character building moments, in particularly like backstory for Pauline or Donkey Kong. But I think the antagonists are really great. There is a moment, like I said, in like the final act of this game where I genuinely got so hyped because there is a character that shows up that I just... Oh man, it made me so excited. It made me so excited. And I'm really glad that those last 3 hours were as good as they were, because it definitely brought this game's score up. Not by a lot. It probably would have been like an 8 out of 10. But that last 3 hours really made me go, wow, you know what? I probably would replay this game just to reach those last 3 hours again. Because otherwise, I don't know if I would replay the whole game. And that is kind of a downside to me, is I just don't really feel like playing more or replaying the game, which is definitely a negative. Replayability is a big factor for how much I love a game. But you know, this game has a lot of great things. The gameplay, the platforming, the combat, a lot of it is great. I don't love the core mechanic and the core gameplay loop, and I'm not a big fan of how you actually progress through the game. But, you know, that being said, there is still amazing visuals. However, this is one thing, I don't really know how to tackle this, because I feel like this is like second nature at this point, but also this is kind of upsetting to a certain degree. There are performance issues in this game. I would dare say quite a lot, actually. Like, mainly in terms of frame drops. There is a lot of times where this game's frames just drop. It is not a locked 60. There's a lot of times where it's running 30 or below. And it's usually whenever a lot of things are happening, which I get it, a lot of things are happening. But it is just kind of really upsetting, because at the end of the day, it still felt like a Switch game running on a Switch, even though we're on a much improved Switch, which that is definitely a downside to me. But that is not something I would deduct a point from, because it didn't ruin my experience, but it was kind of upsetting. Like, man, this game would be so like, I really wish this was running at a solid 60 frames per second, but it is what it is. I get it. It's still a Nintendo console at the end of the day. But that's not something I would say, like, you should be afraid of playing the game for, or I would dare say lower your score for, because I don't think, especially when it comes to Nintendo games, that's not a big factor. Unless it's broken, like Violet and Scarlet. Like, unless the game is broken, then yeah, that's definitely to say something. But if it's just frame drops, it's gonna happen with Nintendo games. Like, it's just destined. But yeah, the visuals, I love so much of the art style. I love a lot of the environments that we go to. I really enjoyed the music in this game. Right, there is so much to like here. I really love the story. And you know, you may be asking, you've said a lot of great things about this game, and you're giving this game a lot of praises. And yes, I am, because it deserves it, and I think they are there. The praises I'm giving it are there, and I recognize that. Even for somebody, I'm not saying I love this game. I still prefer Mario Odyssey. I still prefer Kirby and the Forgotten Land over this. But there is so much good and quality in this game. I just can't help but see it. I can't help but see it. Even if I was the biggest Donkey Kong hater and I played this game, I'd be like, oh, I hate Donkey Kong, but oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. You know, I'm not a Donkey Kong hater, by the way. I was just making an example. But yeah, this game has a lot of greatness to it. And you may be wondering, well, you still gave it 8.5. You're saying a whole 1.5 is deducted just because you don't like digging and collecting bananas. No, I'm not saying that is the whole reason it's at 8.5. You know, when I say I love the story, when I say I love the music, when I say I love the visuals and the platforming and the combat, that I'm not saying all of that is a 10 out of 10 in my eyes, right? I'm just saying I really love that. I really enjoy that. Whereas there are, you know, things that just drag it down a little bit. And then there is a big one for me that drags it down, which is, yeah, the collecting bananas and breaking things. When I talk about the progression through the actual game, there is a lot of repeated scenarios, especially when you reach those elder bonanzas where, hey, go talk to this elder. Hey, just talk to him and then go collect these pieces of this CD, right? They do that a lot. The boss fights, I think, are kind of underwhelming in this game. Honestly, the boss fights, dare I say, are kind of weak in this game, which is really upsetting because there is a lot of mechanics in this game that I feel like they could have done a lot more with when it comes to the boss fights. And I feel like the biggest problem is they're just way too easy. Like, there were so many boss fights, I literally just walked up, smacked them 3 times, and that was it. Like, I didn't have to do anything. I maybe had to jump over, like, one lava wave or something. Like, the boss fights were very underwhelming until those last 3 hours. I think the last 3 hours kind of made up for it a little bit. Yeah, there are just things that I wasn't, like, in love with. There were things that I didn't really like. But, you know, overall, looking at the game, this is a game that's going to have so much quality. If you are a Nintendo fan, if you are a Donkey Kong fan, if you are a platformer fan, absolutely play this game because you are going to enjoy it from start to finish. And I wouldn't be surprised if you think this is one of the best games ever made. And I think everybody has full force to make that argument with this game because it's there. It's there. I really enjoyed my time. Like I said, 8.5 out of 10. I think that's a really great game. I'd put it on the A tier. Yeah, go play Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's a fantastic game. It really is. I really wish, you know, I connected with the game a little bit more. Unfortunately, there was just a lot of things that didn't click with me, and that's really what it comes down to. There are going to be games that click with people, that click with everyone, that click with no one. And unfortunately, this is just not a game that clicked with me, that is clicking with so many other people, and that's okay. But I can't wait to talk about it with people. I can't wait to possibly play co-op with someone, right? There was a lot of things to love here. And so, yeah, thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of Donkey Kong Bonanza? I'd love to have just a nice civil debate about this. But, yeah, I will say this is 100% going to be a Game of the Year contender without a doubt. And I think this is truthfully the way they should have kicked off the Nintendo Switch 2. I get it. Mario Kart World should have and probably is the much needed launch title. But in terms of, like, wants and, like, wish list, and in terms of, like, what a Nintendo fan would have loved more, Donkey Kong Bonanza should have been the launch title. But I get it. From a business, from a marketing point of view, Mario Kart World is the one you probably should lead with. But I will stick to it. Donkey Kong Bonanza should have been the launch title because, man, it would have been a much more exciting launch, I feel like, for the Nintendo Switch 2. But this is the first game where I'm like, yeah, you need a Nintendo Switch 2 to play this game. This is the first one where I'm like, yeah, this is the Nintendo game I've been waiting for. And I can't wait to see where we go from here. But anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Johnny Moore out. Peace.